The sound came through the speakers like nothing had ever heard before. It was not a normal distress signal. It was not the sharp beeping that ships sent when they were in trouble. This sound was different. It was low and long, like something crying in the dark. Stopped working on the engine part in his hands. He was a mechanic on the salvage ship called Wanderer's Hope. For 12 years, he had fixed broken machines and dying engines. He had heard many strange sounds from space, but this one made his heart feel heavy. He walked to the bridge where Captain stood looking at the main screen. She was a tall woman with gray in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much of space. Around her, the crew worked at their stations, but everyone kept glancing at the speakers. The sound came again. It rose and fell like a wave of sadness. "What is that?" asked Pilot O, a young man who still believed space was exciting. Shook her head. "I do not know, the computer cannot identify it." Listened carefully. He closed his eyes and let the sound fill his mind. There was something familiar about it, not the sound itself, but the feeling behind it. He had felt this before, long ago, when he held his dying father's hand in a hospital room. It was the feeling of something that did not want to die. "It is alive," said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" asked. "The sound, it is coming from something alive, something very large and very hurt." He opened his eyes. "I think it is a—" The bridge went silent. Everyone knew about. They were the greatest creations in the galaxy. Living ships born from a mix of organic flesh and mechanical parts. They grew to be kilometers long. They could travel through space on their own. They were rare, sacred, and very old. Most species in the galactic community thought of them as gods. "Impossible," said Engineer Park Menu, a heavy-set man with oil stains on his uniform. "Do not come to salvage zones. They stay in protected space." "Run a deep scan," ordered. His fingers moved across his controls. The ship's sensors reached out into the darkness. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the screen filled with data and everyone gasped. 3 kilometers away, hidden in a field of broken ships and floating metal, was a shape. It was enormous. The scan showed it was 2.8 kilometers long. Its body curved like a whale from Earth's old oceans, but it was covered in metal plates and glowing lines. Most of those lines were dark now. Only a few flickered weakly, like candles about to go out. "By all the stars," whispered. Stared at the image. That was beautiful, even in its damaged state. He could see wounds on its body where something had torn through its skin. Dark patches spread across its surface like disease. "I am running a biological scan," Menu said. His voice was shaking. "Captain, the ship is infested. Parasites. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands." The crew members looked at each other with fear. Were the worst things that could happen to a living ship. They were creatures that lived inside organic vessels. They ate the ship from the inside. They took control of its systems, and they always killed their host in the end. "The galactic community has protocols for this," said slowly. "When it is infested with, it is marked for death. No one is supposed to interfere." "They have given up on it," said. There was anger in his voice. 17 species have tried to save infested ships, Menu said. All of them failed. The parasites adapt too fast. They learn, they survive. The crying sound came through the speakers again. This time heard words in it. Not real words, but feelings that his mind turned into words. "Help me, please, I am still here. I am still fighting." He walked closer to the screen and put his hand on the image of the— "What is its name?" he asked. Checked his data. The registry calls it. The translator says Morning Thunder. It is over 800 years old. 800 years. This ship had traveled through space for 800 years. It had seen stars born and die. It had carried passengers across the galaxy. And now it was dying alone in a field of garbage, and no one was coming to help. "Captain," said, turning to, "I want to go aboard." "That is suicide," Menu said immediately. "They will kill you in minutes." "Maybe, maybe not. looked at with steady eyes. "I have spent my whole life fixing machines, but this is not just a machine. This is something alive, and it is asking for help." Was quiet for a long time. She looked at the screen, at the dying giant floating in the dark. She looked at the certainty in his face. "The galactic community will be angry," she said. "The galactic community left it to die. If you go aboard and fail, we cannot help you. The parasites might spread to our ship." "I understand." Sighed. She had known for 8 years. She had seen him fix engines that everyone said were broken forever. She had watched him talk to machines like they were old friends. There was something different about him, something that other mechanics did not have. "Fine," she said, "but you take a full suit, extra oxygen and weapons, and you report back every 10 minutes. Nodded. He was already walking toward the equipment room. Called after him, he stopped and looked back. "Why are you doing this, really?" He thought about the question. He thought about his father who had died in a ship accident when was young. He thought about all the machines he had fixed, all the engines he had brought back to life. He thought about the sound coming through the speakers, the sound of something that did not want to die. "Because someone should," he said. "Because every machine deserves a chance, and because I can hear it asking." He walked away to prepare. Behind him, the crying continued, but now there was something else in it, something that might have been hope. 1 hour later, stood in the airlock of the Wanderer's Hope. He wore a heavy suit with armor plates and carried tools on his belt. Through the small window, he could see Morning Thunder waiting for him in the dark. The giant ship's biolights flickered once, twice, like eyes trying to stay open. "I am coming," said quietly. "Hold on, I am coming." The airlock opened, and he stepped into the void. The wound in the ship's side was large enough to fly a small shuttle through, floated toward it slowly, using small bursts from his suit's thrusters. As he got closer, he could see the edges of the wound. They were not clean cuts. Something had torn through the ship's skin from inside, breaking through metal and flesh together. He landed on the edge and looked into the darkness within. His helmet light showed him walls that were partly metal and partly something else. The something else was gray and soft, like muscle that had stopped moving. Tubes ran along the walls like veins. Most of them were empty and dry. "I am inside," reported through his radio. "The damage is very bad. The ship's organic systems are shutting down." "Get out of there," Minu's voice came back. "You cannot fix 800 years of damage." Did not answer. He stepped deeper into the ship. The air inside was thin but breathable. His suit told him there were toxins in it, poisons from the parasites. He kept his helmet sealed and moved forward. The corridor he walked through had once been beautiful. He could see patterns on the walls, designs that told stories in a language he did not know. Some of the patterns still glowed faintly, trying to stay alive. He put his hand on the wall. It was warm, warmer than he expected. The ship was still producing heat, still fighting. "Can you hear me?" he asked quietly. He did not know if could understand human speech. He did not know if this one could hear anything at all, but he had to try. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the wall under his hand pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Smiled inside his helmet. "Good, I hear you too. I am here to help. Can you show me where the parasites are strongest?" The temperature around him changed. The wall to his left became slightly warmer. The wall to his right became cold. He understood. The ship was pointing him in a direction. He walked left. The deeper he went, the worse things became. The walls were covered in a black substance that looked like mold but moved when he got close to it. He saw holes in the floor where parasites had chewed through. He saw tubes that had been cut open, their contents drained away. And then he saw his first. It was sitting in a nest of black material at an intersection of 2 corridors. The creature was the size of a large dog, with 6 legs and a body covered in hard shell. Its head was mostly mouth, with rows of teeth that could cut through metal. It had no eyes that he could see, but it turned toward him as soon as he got close. Stopped moving, he held his breath. The clicked its teeth together. It could smell him or hear him or sense him in some way he did not understand. It started crawling toward him. He pulled the weapon from his belt. It was a plasma cutter, meant for slicing through ship hulls. He had never used it on something alive before. The jumped. Fired, the blue flame of the plasma cutter hit the creature in the chest and burned straight through. The parasite fell to the ground, twitching, then went still. "One down," said into his radio. "Maybe 1,000 more to go." He stepped over the body and kept walking. 2 hours later he found the ship's medical bay, or what had been the medical bay. Now it was a hive. Dozens of crawled over the walls, the ceiling, the equipment. They had built nests everywhere, black structures that pulsed with sick life. And in the middle of it all, someone was calling his name. "Where are you?" He turned and saw running toward him through the corridor behind him. She was the ship's medic, a small woman with quick hands and a sharp mind. She wore a suit like his but carried medical supplies instead of weapons. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "Captain sent me. You stopped reporting 30 minutes ago. She thought you were dead." Looked past him at the hive and her face went pale. "Oh no. I told them I would do this alone. And I told the captain I was not going to let you die in here without medical support." She pulled out a scanner and pointed it at the hive. "These are not just feeding. They have connected themselves to the ship's nervous system. They are stealing its thoughts." Had suspected as much. They were not simple animals. They were smart. They did not just eat their hosts. They learned from them. They took control. "Can you help the ship fight them off?" he asked. Shook her head. "The infection is too deep. The ship's immune system has been turned against itself. The parasites are using the ship's own defenses to protect themselves." A sound came from the hive. More were waking up. They had smelled the humans. "We need to move," said. They ran. The parasites chased them, dozens of clicking, screaming bodies pouring out of the medical bay. Fired his plasma cutter behind him, killing some, but more kept coming. They turned a corner and found themselves at a dead end. The corridor had collapsed, filled with debris and dead tissue. "There is no way through," said. They were getting closer, could hear them in the darkness behind. He put his hand on the wall. "Please," he said to the ship, "help us." For a terrible moment, nothing happened. The parasites rounded the corner. There were so many of them, a wave of teeth and claws. Then the wall next to opened. It split apart like a mouth, revealing a hidden passage that led deeper into the ship. Air rushed out from inside, clean air that smelled like nothing. "Go," pushed through the opening. The first reached him. Its claws tore through his suit and into his arm. He screamed and fired his weapon at point-blank range. The creature died, but the damage was done. He fell through the opening, and the wall closed behind him. He could hear the parasites scratching at it from the other side, trying to get through, but the wall held. Was at his side immediately, pulling out medical supplies. "Your arm, let me see your arm." The wound was deep. The parasite's claws had gone through muscle. Blood was filling his suit. "It is fine," he said, but his voice was weak. "It is not fine. You are losing blood." She worked quickly, sealing the wound with medical gel and injecting him with something that made the pain fade. "You cannot keep going like this." "I have to." He looked around at the passage the ship had opened for them. It was different from the corridors above. The walls here were smooth and healthy. The biolights glowed strongly. This part of the ship had not been touched by the parasites yet. "This is the deep structure," said with wonder. "The ship's core systems. It hid this from the—" Understood. The ship had been fighting all along. It had protected its most important parts, waiting for help that never came. Until now. He stood up slowly, holding his wounded arm. The ship's walls pulsed around him, warm and welcoming. He felt the same feeling he had felt when he first heard the distress signal. The ship was talking to him. "Do not give up on me," it seemed to say. "I have not given up yet." "I will not," promised. "Show me where the Queen is. Show me how to end this." The passage ahead of him began to glow, showing him the way. Helped him stand straight. The Queen. To have a queen, she is the source. She is the one controlling all the others. If we kill her, the rest will die. He looked at with tired but determined eyes. The ship is showing me where she is, near the heart, near the core. Then that is where we go, said. They walked into the light together, leaving the screaming parasites behind. The passage led them deeper into the ship than any outsider had ever gone. The walls here were alive in ways that had never seen before. Colors moved through them like blood through veins. Sounds hummed through the air, low and constant, like the ship was singing to itself. Kept looking around with wide eyes. This is incredible. The organic and mechanical systems are completely merged here. I have never seen anything like this. Nodded but did not speak. He was listening to the ship. With every step, he felt more connected to it. The walls pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The lights brightened when he felt hope and dimmed when he felt fear. They came to a large chamber where several passages met. In the center was a pool of silver liquid that glowed softly. Above it, floating in the air, was a hologram of the ship. Could see every part of it, including the dark spots where the parasites had spread. "The infection covers 60% of the ship," said, reading data from her scanner. "It is getting worse every hour. At this rate, the ship will be completely taken over in 3 days. Before could respond, a new voice spoke from behind them. "Fascinating. A human believes he can succeed where 17 species have failed." They turned to see a figure standing in one of the passages. It was an alien, standing on 4 legs with 2 arms folded across its chest. Its shell was dark green, and its eyes were compound, made of thousands of tiny lenses. It wore a silver badge that marked it as a galactic observer. "I am," the alien said, walking toward them. "I was sent to document the death of this. I did not expect to find humans inside." "How did you get in here?" demanded. "The same way you did, through the wounds in the hull. The parasites ignored me. I am not organic enough for their taste." Looked at with curiosity. "You are the mechanic, the one who heard the distress signal and decided to play hero." "I'm not playing," said. "No, then let me tell you what will happen." Walked around the hologram, pointing at the dark spots. "The Queen has been feeding on this ship for 200 years. She has merged with its brain. Its memories are her memories now. Its weapons are her weapons. Every time someone tries to kill her, she uses the ship to defend herself." 17 species have tried, said. "Yes, the scent soldiers. The Queen turned the ship's internal defenses against them. The scent poison. The Queen adapted the ship's filters to clean it away. The collective sent nanobots. The Queen them to serve her instead." Shook his head. "Every attack has failed. The parasites learn too quickly." "Then we do not attack," said. Stopped walking. "What?" Moved closer to the hologram. He studied the dark spots, the places where the parasites had spread. But he also studied the light spots, the places they had avoided. "Look here," he said, pointing. And here, the parasites have not touched these areas. Why?" Leaned in. "Those are damaged sections. The organic and mechanical systems have fused incorrectly. They produce waste compounds that are toxic to living tissue." "Toxic to living tissue," repeated, "but not toxic to mechanical systems." Understood first. The parasites need pure organic matter. They cannot survive in places where the mechanical systems are dominant. "Yes," smiled. "The ship has 2 immune systems, one organic, one mechanical. The Queen has taken control of the organic immune system, but the mechanical one is still free." "What are you suggesting?" asked. "I trigger the mechanical immune response. I make the ship flood its own body with synthetic antibodies. The compounds will be harmless to the ship's machine parts, but deadly to anything purely organic inside it. That would kill the parasites, said excitedly. Then her face fell. But it would also damage the ship's organic systems. Only temporarily. The ship can heal organic damage. It cannot heal from being completely taken over by the Queen. Made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Your plan requires the ship to trust you completely, to let you access its deepest systems, to choose to hurt itself in order to survive. The alien's compound eyes studied closely. No outsider has ever achieved that level of trust with a "what makes you think you can?" Did not answer. Instead, he walked to the pool of silver liquid in the center of the chamber. He knelt beside it and slowly removed his gloves. Then he put his bare hands into the liquid. It was warm like blood. It pulsed around his fingers like a heartbeat. And suddenly he could feel the ship. Not just hear it, not just sense it, but truly feel it. He felt its pain, centuries of suffering under the parasites. He felt its fear, the terror of being consumed from within. He felt its loneliness, abandoned by everyone who should have helped. Tears ran down his face, inside his helmet. "I know," he whispered to the ship. "I know how it feels to be abandoned, to be left to die alone." The ship listened. He could feel its attention, vast and ancient, focusing on him. "My father died on a ship when I was 12 years old," said. "The engine failed. Everyone said it was an accident, that nothing could have been done, but I knew the truth. The ship had been sending warnings for months, small sounds, strange vibrations. No one listened. No one paid attention." The liquid around his hands grew warmer. "After that, I promised myself I would always listen. Every machine I work on, every engine I fix, I listen to what it tells me. I hear what it needs." He looked up at the hologram of the dying ship. "I heard you calling. Across all that empty space, I heard you, and I came." The chamber was silent except for the humming of the ship, and watched without moving. "I cannot promise this will work," continued. "I cannot promise you will survive, but I can promise that I will try. I will fight for you like no one else has fought. I will not give up. I will not leave you." He closed his eyes and opened his heart. He let the ship see everything he was, his memories, his hopes, his fears, his love for machines that others threw away, his belief that everything deserved a chance to live. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the ship responded. The silver liquid rose up around his arms, warm and welcoming. The walls of the chamber began to glow brighter. Data flooded into his mind, schematics and systems and centuries of memories. The ship was opening itself to him completely. "Trust," it seemed to say, "I trust you." Opened his eyes. They were glowing faintly with reflected light from the pool. "Show me the way to your heart," he said. "Show me how to save you." A new passage opened in the wall ahead. It led down, deeper than anything before, toward the core of the ship where the Queen waited. Stared at with all 1,000 of his eyes. "Impossible," the alien whispered. "Not impossible," said with a smile, "just human." Stood up. The silver liquid dripped from his hands, but some of it stayed, forming thin lines across his skin that pulsed with light. He and the ship were connected now. He could feel its heartbeat mixing with his own. "The Queen knows we are coming," he said. "She will fight us with everything she has." "Then we fight back," said, checking her weapons. They walked into the passage together. Behind them, hesitated for only a moment before following. He was an observer. He needed to see how this ended. The final battle was about to begin. The passage to the ship's heart was long and dark. The walls here were different from anywhere else. They were thick, armored, meant to protect the most important part of but the armor had been broken in many places. Black parasitic growth pushed through the cracks, spreading like disease. Walked at the front, his hands still glowing with the silver light of his connection to the ship. Behind him came with her medical equipment and weapons. Behind her came, recording everything with devices built into his shell. They encountered every few minutes. The parasites came at them from holes in the walls, from the ceiling, from the floor. But something was different now. The ship was fighting with them. When parasites attacked from the left, a wall would suddenly close, crushing them. When they came from above, vents would open and release hot gas that burned them away. When they blocked the path ahead, the floor would tilt and send them sliding into pits that sealed shut behind them. "The ship is protecting us," said with wonder. "The ship is fighting for its life," corrected. "For the first time in 200 years it has hope. It is not going to waste this chance." They pushed deeper. The parasitic growth became thicker. The walls were almost completely covered in black now. The ship's lights flickered weakly, struggling against the darkness. And then they reached the heart. It was a chamber the size of a cathedral. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadow. The floor was covered in organic material, soft and warm, pulsing like living tissue. In the center of the chamber was a massive structure of crystal and flesh, the ship's brain and heart combined into one. And wrapped around it, merged into it, was the queen. She was 20 meters long. Her body was like but 100 times bigger. Her shell was black and covered in spines. Her mouth could swallow a human whole. But the worst part was how she had connected herself to the ship. Thousands of thin tubes ran from her body into the crystal structure, pumping her poison directly into the ship's mind. The queen turned to face them. She had no eyes but could feel her attention. She was old, older than any parasite had a right to be. She had fed on this ship for 200 years. She knew every part of it. She controlled every system. "Little creatures," the queen spoke, not through sound but through the ship's own speakers. Her voice was wet and wrong, like something dead trying to talk. "You have come to die." "We have come to end you," said. The queen laughed. It was an ugly sound that echoed through the entire ship. "Others have tried, better than you, stronger than you. They all became food for my children." She raised one massive limb and poured into the chamber. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, coming from every direction. They covered the walls like a living carpet. They filled the air with the sound of clicking teeth. I said nervously, "I know." He closed his eyes and felt his connection to the ship. He felt its pain, the queen's poison flowing through its veins. He felt its fear, the parasites crawling through its body. But he also felt its determination, its refusal to give up. "Now," he said to the ship, "we do this now." He reached into his connection and triggered the mechanical immune response. It started slowly. Deep in the ship's structure, machines that had been sleeping for centuries began to wake up. They were the ship's synthetic immune system, designed to clean and repair and protect. The queen had ignored them because they could not hurt her organic body. But had them. Through his connection to the ship, he had changed their target. Instead of cleaning, they would attack. Instead of repairing, they would destroy. And their weapon was a compound that was harmless to machines but deadly to parasites. The first wave hit the closest to the mechanical systems. The creatures screamed and fell, their insides turning to liquid. The second wave spread further, killing parasites in the walls, in the ceiling, in the floor. The queen felt her children dying. She screamed, a sound of rage and pain that shook the whole ship. "What have you done?" she demanded. "I turned your weapon against you," said. "You used the ship's organic immune system to protect yourself. Now the mechanical immune system is coming for you." The synthetic antibodies were spreading through the chamber now, died by the dozens, by the hundreds. Their bodies piled up on the floor. The black growth on the walls began to shrink and die. But the queen was not finished. She pulled on her connection to the ship's brain and took control of the remaining systems. Doors slammed shut. The floor began to tilt. Weapons built into the walls aimed at and his companions. "If I die, the ship dies with me," the queen screamed. She fired. Energy beams cut through the air, threw himself to one side, dove behind a pillar. The shell absorbed a hit that would have killed anything softer. More came, the survivors, the strongest ones. They were dying from the synthetic antibodies, but they had enough life left to fight. They threw themselves at the intruders with desperate fury. Fired his plasma cutter at the nearest ones. Used a medical laser as a weapon, burning holes through parasite shells. Even fought, using sharp limbs hidden beneath his observer's uniform. But there were too many. A knocked the weapon from his hand. Another slammed into his chest and sent him flying. He hit the ground hard and felt something crack. The queen laughed again. "Foolish human, did you think you could defeat me? I have lived for thousands of years. I have consumed 100 ships. I am eternal." Struggled to stand. Blood ran from his nose and mouth. His chest hurt with every breath, but he was still connected to the ship. He could still feel its heartbeat. And he could feel something else. The ship was gathering its strength. Every bit of energy it had left, every system that still worked, it was pulling together for one final effort. "You are not eternal," said. "You are a parasite you cannot create. You can only steal, and today you have stolen your last ship." He pushed everything he had into his connection. All his will, all his determination, all his love for the dying giant that had trusted him. He gave it all to the ship. And the ship responded. The synthetic antibodies concentrated around the queen. Not a slow spread, but a focused attack, a wave of poison aimed directly at her. The compounds flooded through the tubes that connected her to the ship's brain. They entered her body. They began to destroy her from within. The queen screamed. This time the sound was different. This time it was the sound of something dying. She tried to disconnect, to pull her tubes free from the ship's brain, but she had been attached for too long. She could not separate herself without dying. She was trapped. The antibodies kept coming. Her shell cracked. Her body began to collapse. Her children died around her, unable to survive without her commands. "No," the queen whispered. "No, this cannot be. I am eternal. I am forever." "You are nothing," said, "and now you are dead." The queen fell. Her massive body hit the floor and lay still. The tubes connecting her to the ship went dark. The last of her children died screaming. Silence filled the chamber, the kind of silence that comes after a storm. Lay on the floor, too tired to move. Crawled to his side and checked his injuries. Stood in the middle of the dead parasites, recording everything. And the ship spoke. Not through speakers this time. Not through temperature or light. The ship spoke directly into his mind, with a voice as old as stars and as warm as sunrise. "Thank you," it said. "Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for saving me." Smiled. Blood stained his teeth, but he smiled. "You are welcome," he whispered. "Rest now, heal, you are free." The lights in the chamber began to glow brighter. The black growth on the walls started to fade. The ship's heart beat strongly for the first time in centuries. The battle was over. The ship had survived. 3 months had passed since the battle, and the ship's heart stood at a window in the orbital shipyard, watching the greatest living ship in the galaxy being reborn. Morning thunder floated in the repair dock, surrounded by scaffolding and work platforms. Thousands of engineers from dozens of species worked on its surface, repairing damage, replacing broken systems, helping the ship heal. But most of the healing came from within. Now that the parasites were gone, this natural regeneration was remarkable. New skin grew over old wounds. Dead systems came back to life. The biolights that had flickered so weakly 3 months ago now blazed with power. "It is beautiful," said, standing beside him. Her arm was still in a cast from the injuries she had taken in the battle. "I never thought I would see a restored like this." Nodded. He had spent 2 weeks in a medical facility after they brought him out of the ship. His ribs had been broken. His lungs had been damaged. The doctors said he should not have survived, but he had, and so had the ship. They had saved each other. The door behind them opened, and Captain walked in with the Galactic Observer. "The Council has made its decision," said. There was a strange look on her face, something between pride and disbelief. "What did they decide?" asked. Stepped forward. The alien's compound eyes reflected the light from the ship outside. "I submitted my report 3 days ago. I told them everything. How you heard the distress signal, how you entered the ship alone, how you communicated with it, earned its trust, and found a way to destroy the parasites that 17 other species could not." "What did they say?" "They did not believe me at first. They said it was impossible, a human mechanic succeeding where the greatest scientists in the galaxy had failed." Made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Then I showed them my recordings. I showed them the ship's own memories, which it shared willingly. After that, they had no choice but to accept the truth." Put her hand on shoulder. "They want to study your method. They think it could be used to save other infected ships that have been written off as dead for centuries." "The synthetic antibody approach?" asked. "No, well, yes, that too. But mainly they want to study how you communicated with the ship, how you earned its trust so completely." His voice became serious. "In 800 years of history, no outsider has ever achieved what you achieved. The bond you formed was supposed to be impossible." Looked out at the ship. Even from this distance, he could feel it. The connection they had made during the battle had not faded. If anything, it had grown stronger. He could sense the ship's emotions, its thoughts, its dreams, and he knew the ship could sense his. "It was not impossible," he said quietly. "It was just something no one had tried before." "What do you mean?" "Everyone who tried to save before approached them as problems to solve. They brought weapons or poison or technology. They tried to fix the ships like broken machines." Turned to face. "I did not do that. I listened. I talked. I treated the ship like what it really is, a living being that was afraid and alone and needed someone to care about it." The chamber was silent for a moment. "Empathy," said. "That is what you used, not technology, empathy." "The other species thought empathy was weakness," said slowly. "They thought emotions had no place in dealing with a biological emergency." "They were wrong," said simply. A communication signal beeped on its device. She looked at it and her eyes went wide. "The ship is asking for you," she said too. "It wants to talk to you directly." They made their way down to the dock where a shuttle waited to take them to the ship. As they flew closer, could see the changes more clearly. There was not just healing, it was evolving. Some of the human technology that had introduced during the battle had been absorbed and integrated. The ship's weapons were stronger now. Its engines were faster. Its sensors were sharper. The shuttle landed in a bay that had not existed 3 months ago. The ship had grown it specifically to receive human visitors. The walls were sized for human comfort. The air was perfectly suited for human lungs. Stepped out and put his hand on the nearest wall. The familiar warmth welcomed him. "I missed you too," he said. The ship responded by flooding his mind with feelings, joy at his return, gratitude for everything he had done, and something else, something like a request. "What do you need?" asked. Images filled his mind. He saw the ship flying through space, but he was there too, not just visiting but living aboard, traveling together, working together. The ship was asking him to stay, permanently. In culture, remembered from his research, this kind of bond had a name. It was the deepest connection a could offer, a partnership for life. He felt tears forming in his eyes. "Are you sure? I am just a human, a mechanic. I am nothing special." The ship's response was immediate and certain. "You heard me when no one else would. You saved me when everyone else had given up. You are everything special." Looked back at his companions, who had trusted him when she did not have to, who had followed him into death and come out alive, even who had witnessed something that changed his understanding of the universe. "The ship wants me to stay," he told them. Smiled sadly. "I know, we could feel it too. The ship has made its wishes very clear. But the Wanderers hope. We'll manage without you. We have for 12 years. We can do it again." Stepped forward and hugged him. You found your purpose, do not let it go. One by one, they said goodbye, promised to visit, promised to tell the galaxy what had happened here, and promised that the crew of the Wanderer's Hope would always consider him family. Then they left and was alone with the ship. I need to give you a new name, he said. Morning Thunder does not fit anymore. You are not mourning, you are alive, you are free. The ship pulsed with curiosity. It wanted to know what name he would choose. Thought about the journey they had taken together. From the first sound of the distress signal to the final battle with the Queen, from death to life, from darkness to light. Second Dawn, he said, your name is Second Dawn. The ship's joy flooded through him like sunlight. It loved the name, it loved him, and he loved it back. News of what had happened spread across the galaxy. Within days, other distress signals began appearing. That had been infected and abandoned, ships that had been crying in the dark for centuries. They had heard about the human who listened. They had heard that there was hope. And Second Dawn answered the calls. Together, they traveled to the edges of known space, finding wounded giants and bringing them back to life. Trained others in his methods, teaching them that technology alone was not enough. That sometimes the most powerful thing in the universe was simply caring. On the day that the 10th was saved, the Galactic Council invited to speak. Representatives from 1,000 species gathered to hear what he had to say. He stood before them, a simple mechanic from a small salvage ship, and he told them the truth. I am not a scientist, I am not a warrior, I am not special. I am just someone who listened when everyone else had stopped. I am just someone who cared when everyone else had given up. He looked out at the assembled aliens, at their curious eyes and strange bodies. Your technology is amazing. Your weapons are powerful. Your knowledge is vast, but you have forgotten something important. Every living thing wants to be heard. Every living thing wants to be cared for. If you remember that, there is nothing in this universe you cannot save. The chamber was silent when he finished. Then slowly the applause began. It grew and grew until it shook the walls. Outside, visible through the great windows of the council chamber, Second Dawn floated in space. The greatest living warship in the galaxy, fully restored and more powerful than ever before. Its biolights blazed like stars. Its weapons hummed with energy. It was beautiful and terrible and completely devoted to the human who had saved its life. The galaxy had always wondered what made humans different. Now they knew. Humans did not just hear machines. They heard souls.